Hello and welcome back to the weekly operation for Operations with Void. I'm your host, Forgotten Void. This week we will be doing Cherry Blossom, and we'll be doing it in one of the original really good cruisers for Cherry Blossom. This is more or less a side grade to Cleveland. This is almost exactly like a Cleveland. I'm going to be using the Azure Lane Montpelier. Big difference is, one, it's a premium instead of a tech tree ship, so it gets the increased credit income. Two, it has 600 hit points more than Cleveland. Three, it has half a second slower reload. But number four, the dispersion is slightly better than Cleveland. Otherwise, it has the same modules, the same guns, pretty much everything else is identical to Cleveland, so you can play a Cleveland pretty much the same way as the Montpelier and vice versa. Now, onto equipment. We have radar. You can take spotting aircraft. Oh, they haven't put the fighter back. Cleveland gets the fighter. Montpelier does not. The fighter, when Cleveland was first moved up to Tier 8, they took away the fighter, and they brought in the Montpelier as a premium version. And they gave the fighter back to Cleveland, but they never gave the fighter back to Montpelier. So there's another difference. You can take a fighter aircraft. Not that that does anything. But yeah, you could take a fighter aircraft instead of radar if you want to troll some people. So yeah, we have radar. We have the radar mod. If you're not running the radar mod, I'd run the engine protection mod because it's a light cruiser with light cruiser armor. We're running the main battery mod. If you want to troll some people and use the spotter plane, you can use the spotter aircraft model, but main battery broad is probably the best there. Aiming system mod's the best until they, change this from preparation time to something that actually affects your AA. The preparation time is bad. Until they change that, then the aim mod is probably the best. Unless you feel the gun turrets, they are a little bit slow, so you can outturn them if you're in a hard turn. But for the most part, aiming system mod 1 is the best. We have propulsion to get in and out of trouble and speed juke, because the rudder shift is already here. The rudder shift at 7.2 seconds is already pretty good. And minus 20%, that's not even going to get you a second in shift time. And then we have concealment mod, because when you bring your concealment, it brings your concealment down to close to your radar. And well, this allows you to play in randoms as well if you'd like to, but consider you're a light cruiser, sometimes you don't want to be shot at, and there's where concealment helps. As for the skills, these are the skills I'm using. RPF is specifically for Raptor Rescue. Because we have concealment to bring the concealment down. So the concealment's down to 9.3 with a 9-kilometer radar. You have Superintendent because you have so many consumables, it's helpful. We have Adrenaline Rush and consumable enhancements to let them last longer. It's more of a, you don't really need this one for PvE, it's more of a PvP skill. Priority target to see how many people are shooting at us. Focus fire training is there for AA, because in ops you have 2 ops, Cherry Blossom and Hermes, where it's AA is necessary, and getting the extra damage there is really nice. It's although this one is nice, plus 20% to continuous AA damage. It's 4-point skill, and considering there's so many skills that are good, we just went with a 2-point skill. Now you could take these 2 skills off, and you can either do the AA Defense Expert, or you can do Inertial Fuse for HE. Now, this is a tier 8 cruiser, so you get the 30 millimeters of penetration, which is why, and since we're in ops and we're not facing a lot of higher tier ships where we need the 30, cross the 32 or 37, we didn't take it. And this also allows a Montpelier to keep the high, Montpelier and Cleveland, to keep the highest fires per minute over other ships, because with the 13%, having that is it's pretty bad. I think actually no, yeah, no, it's 12%, and then I have the extra 1% there. So those are the skills we take, and the armor. Yes, again, 25 millimeters all over with a 27 millimeter deck. So it doesn't change much from the Helena. You get a small little armor belt there. You're not going to bounce much, so just don't get hit. Just dodge. With that, we'll go into Cherry Blossom. Now, Cherry Blossom is unique to the operations, as it has a few different gimmicks, features, however you want to call them. One, it's a night battle, so it includes some features similar to a storm, where instead of being detected for a total of 20 seconds after firing, you go undetected after 7 seconds. 2, your detection radius is severely reduced, kind of like in a cyclone, but instead it's based on ship rather than just set at a view range of 8 kilometers. Here I am typing that I'm using radar because, one, there's a short delay. You want your guns to more or less be loaded when you use radar, but because of how close I was, the ships were already in there. And if you have multiple ships with radar, you want to make sure that the others know that you are using it first, especially if you're closest. If another ship, if you're in a division and there's 2 ships with radar, you decide who radars first, and then when they start smoking up, the other person can use their radar. And this way you keep them lit up. Now I am close enough that if need be, we can use hydro, but since they're detected, we are going to try and save the hydro for later, because it'll be needed for the second group. Now, as you can see, I'm on double fire after using DCP for a single fire. That's fine. The way we have it built up, because we have Adrenaline Rush, that'll just increase our DPM, and fires on cruisers aren't usually too serious. I say this as I get another fire. No. So honestly, I should have waited, because destroyers will continue to shoot HE even if you're on fire. I should have waited for the second fire to use the DCP, but I used it early. And here we are. We have, as you can see, the rear turrets aren't turning, and they're pretty much lined back up. So we're trying to get all 4 turrets on. And we're not shooting yet. We're actually waiting for a ship behind us to shoot. But since no one's shooting, we finally shoot to try and get it moving. Because Miyoko also has the slow turret issue, and if they're turning, they can't shoot at the targets. And we're using AP because, well, we should theoretically get more damage using armor piercing. And since it's a broadside, it's easier to get penetrations. And so you see we're switching to HE because the other Myoko is not broadside, and we want to get it moving so it's not shooting at the forts or the regiments. And by diving in to the harbor, you are going to be slower catching up, but that's usually not an issue with the second half of the operation, because if you fail this half, you fail the operation. So making sure the regiments stay alive is more important than setting up for the next section of the operation. And so we're using Hydro now because we're expecting the destroyers to be close-ish, and we want to know when torpedoes are coming in. So there's one destroyer. And at this point, they've probably already launched torpedoes. So where they were is where you want to head or be prepared to head. But again, ships with torpedoes are should be first to die. Then again, every enemy ship we face in this operation has torpedoes. The Myokos just don't generally target the players. They're focusing on shore bombardment. And there we go. There's a spread of from the Shiatsuyu. So if you're going to dive in this deep, you best be prepared to play the dodge torpedoes minigame. And the shells, they say to avoid the illumination shells, only because it brings your max detection to 17.5 kilometers. But if you're firing every 7 seconds or less, in this case we've gotten back down to 6.5, if you're firing that much, you're not going to be undetected. So you might, it doesn't really matter if you're in the illumination shell or not, as long as you're shooting. And there we go. We got more torpedoes on the way, and more torpedoes in the way. Very much is. We want to get those rear turrets on, but dodging torpedoes is the bigger priority here. So since those all came from the Fubuki, we have probably about 30 more seconds left of... Well, that one just got reset and now it's gone. So there shouldn't be any more torpedoes from the Fubuki because they have about a minute for their cooldown. Well, reload time. So here I am pointing on the map where the next enemy should be. The destroyers actually spawn separately and then converge one after another. So the Hatsuharu there spawns due north of that island and then moves around. So here we are trying to shoot from 14 kilometers away at a destroyer with very floaty shells. It's a challenge. That's one of the bad things about American light cruisers. It's good because you can shoot over islands. It's bad because it's hard to aim. And as I said, we were kind of going deep. I don't know what the battleship back in on the 10 line is doing. That you don't... For battleships, you probably shouldn't go that deep. This is a cruiser thing. Hydro. Think that battleship just gave up. So that puts us at 6 players. And there we go. I'm activating my Def AA. I probably should have done that sooner. but I wasn't expecting planes to go this far south. And since we took a lot of fire from the ships, we are going to swing by the carriers. The Lexington class Saratoga, which the in-game model for the Lexington is actually the Saratoga, making it very fitting. And then the Midway class Bunker Hill. Bunker Hill was actually an Essex class carrier. And in fact, when Cherry Blossom first came out several years ago, before it was removed during the carrier rework, it was an Essex class carrier in game. But because Essex class carriers are no longer in game, it has been replaced with a Midway. The only removed from game carrier that's still used model-wise is the Bogue, but it doesn't actually send out aircraft, and that is why it only is used as like an auxiliary ship, and that's in the Operation Raptor Rescue. Otherwise, all the other odd tier carriers have been fully removed. And since we're in the Hilo circle and the Otago isn't ranged, we're shooting at the Otago to try and give support as the Otago runs away at 45 knots. Pretty sure it has a French speed boost on. Stolen technology. And since we're near the carriers, if you have low AA, this is where to be, next to a tier 10 aircraft carrier. So when the planes arrive, the dive bombers, they are AP dive bombers, and the torpedo planes, they have no arming distance. Okay, maybe not no, maybe 100 meters, no, or 50 meters of arming distance. It's ridiculously short. They have very short arming distance, and they hit hard. I think they might be borrowed from Kaga. But anyways, so you don't want to get hit by the torpedoes or the armor-piercing bombs. As for the ships in the harbor, there are ships that spawn at the A line, near where the northern target symbol is. Ships that spawn there will continue to head out of the bay towards the carriers or towards the nearest player, the nearest allied ship, and go attack in that direction. There's a spawn pool that they spawn from, and the contents are listed on the Wikipedia. I don't remember them off the top of my head. It took a lot of video watching to figure out what more or less the spawn pool was. So they have a spawn pool, and so it randomly chooses a ship from the spawn pool, and I think there's a certain number of ships that will spawn, and once that number has reached, then no more spawn. So you can technically kill all the ships, the enemy ships. If you kill all the enemy ships, though, that does not win the operation. So you still need to bombard the aerodromes, and no one's been doing that at the moment. So what we're doing is we're being a little bit reckless and charging in. And we're trying to get the Akazuki because that is... Between that and the cruisers, those are the three most dangerous things in there. But cruisers can be easily deleted by heavy cruisers and battleships and anything else. Akazuki needs a lot of focus fire to get taken down because it does not have a citadel. Yay, destroyers. Protected classes. Well, back in Alpha, destroyers used to have a citadel. It was not fun, and when battleships could, with a single shell, delete destroyers. By a single shell, it would be the only way to get a penetration through the citadel of a destroyer would be bow on. Which in real life, a bow on shell to a destroyer would actually wreck it and take it out in one shot. So right here we do have our hydro active. We are watching out for torpedoes. So there's a lot of torpedoes. And so those are Kagero torpedoes. So we're trying to get him down so we don't have to worry about him anymore. We're swapping to armor piercing because there's a broadside Japanese cruiser. So we actually should have done a hard left here, but I didn't want to go broadside to cruisers as they're trying to set me on fire. The other thing is, and here we're turning left too late, just in time to eat torpedoes. So you either want to stay directly bow in to have best chance of dodging torpedoes, or be broadside and going at the same direction as the Japanese cruisers so they can't throw torpedoes your way because of the rearward arcs. We did the wrong things at the wrong times, and that's why we're down first. But by pushing up and being the one taking all the fire, yes, we're tanking in a light cruiser. It's not something you actually should do, but because we did that, the rest of the team actually followed suit and fell behind us because they weren't being shot at. And a lot of times, you know, the people you run with don't like being shot at. You know, like the Massachusetts, who is much better at being shot at. I guess they really just didn't want to be hit with torpedoes. Andrew Doria, I give him no faults. It's a bad game to be in, a cruiser killer. But at least the SAP does decent against the aerodromes, and they are focusing on the aerodromes. Now where the Renown is, that section, I would only be there in a mines, and only a mines or a hipper, because you have torpedoes and you can torpedo things that are coming too close. I have taken Cleveland up there, and I often do take Cleveland up there, and you're more likely to get taken out because all the ships that spawn in up at the corner will go straight for you. And so you can't do anything but focus on the ships that are coming for you, and they spawn fairly quickly, so it will it hurts. They will eventually focus you down. And if you notice, the Massachusetts is using armor piercing against the shore installations. Armor piercing does nothing against the shore installations. It doesn't do nothing. Armor piercing gives over pens if it's possible. The only things that will, well, actually that got some pens. The aerodromes have some wonky hitboxes. Normally, high explosive is the type to use. The exceptions are German light cruiser armor piercing, Mainz, Nuremberg, Munich, and Weimar. If you're using AP with them at maximum range, so with Weimar, that's with the spotter plane up. If you're using armor piercing at maximum range, then the penetration value is low enough that you will get full penetration, and armor piercing is actually better than high explosive, German weak high explosive. British light cruisers that have armor piercing. It's a short fuse, so it works. All the others, SAP or HE is your best bet. So there we go. We were able to depend on our allies to take care of the forts, and we ourselves, with almost 200k damage, are top of the team, even with being dead for the last several minutes. Now this is a little bit before. This is before the rework, so now that'd probably be around 1600 base XP. But yeah, as you can see, a lot of destroyer damage. And this op is a mostly high explosive operation, so don't feel afraid to press 1 for skill. And we're using blue boosters, so this would also be about 1 million credits with now the economy now. Yay, thank you Wargaming. Thank you for nerfing the economy. And that is Cherry Blossom. So if you have any specific questions on anything, or there's a certain op you would like to see with a certain ship, feel free to let me know in the comments. I will do my best to run said ship and said op. With that, if you like the video, feel free to give a like. If you want to see more videos, subscribe. If you don't want to see more and you don't like the video, well, do what you want. It's up to you. I hope you guys have a good week, and I hope to see you with my next video next week.